Hi guys, James here from Hayes Machinery. Here we have the STIHL MS500i, all 79.2 cc's of it. We've all seen plenty of videos of performance and different people from around the world testing this saw and showing us what it's all about and how to do it. But what we haven't seen very much is what's actually on the inside of the saw. And this is actually a customer saw of ours, and they have brought it in for repair because they managed to fell a 4-ton oak tree on it. As I can see from here, it's got a few breakages. So we're going to strip the saw apart and see what's broken on it, then identify a few other parts and see what's on the inside, see what's going on with this saw, so you guys can see what's in there, we can see what's in there because we haven't taken very many of these apart yet, and go from there and see what we find. So I'm now going to take the saw apart. Okay, so that's pretty much the basic parts of the saw stripped down. Already see some very, very different things going on with this saw compared to other saws on the market and compared to its other STIHL friends in the family. One of the first noticeable things here is the control unit that they've got in the back of the saw here, which controls the fuel injection system. And the other thing is the port on the exhaust, I notice, is rather large. Quite a big port there coming out. But you've still got a nice view of the piston there. You can see that the piston is nice and clean. There's no scoring or anything on the piston. And there's plenty of compression there, which is good. So I'm going to get this saw all cleaned off, get all the components cleaned off. We'll meet you back here to see what we found. So I've now cleaned off all the saw through our parts washer. Nothing better than working on a cleaner saw. And as you can get, the nice thing about going around with a brush and everything, you can see other bits that you may have missed to start with. So another thing I found is that the back handle here on the trigger is broken. And like I said, on the film, a few bits on the crankcase there as well. So I'll just run you through a few other bits and bobs I found on the saw. So a lot of impulse and fuel pipes going on here. I believe there's 4 in total on this saw, going in and around the back of the saw there. And obviously the main difference on the MS500i is that there's no choke. Because it's fuel injected, you pump this on 8 times and then pull the saw over till it starts, and then you just got the main stop button which automatically goes back to the start position. So what we found so far is a broken back cover. It's obviously where the main brunt of the tree possibly hit it, on the back there, which hopefully is only the back cover, but we'll strip that apart and see what's going on in there. So the surround on this one is broken, so the mount won't sit in there correctly anymore. And the other one is on the front here where the dogging teeth join on to the saw, is broken up through there. So it's had a fair pounding. So I think the biggest thing here is obviously with everything, there's no plastics broken. They have managed to survive. So it's just only mainly the crankcase, which is a bit of a shame. It'd be easier if it was a piece of plastic, but we're going to get this on stripped down some more and order the parts up and put it all back together and hopefully have a running saw again. So another major bit I've noticed, which I forgot to say about just now, is that obviously your spark plug cap on the top of the saw would normally come round through in front of the inlet manifold and down to the coil, and would have a coil pack there on the side. But obviously with the MS500i it's very, very different. So your HT lead actually goes down into the control unit and is controlled from there. And then inside, in behind the flywheel, you've got a generator and a controller. So that's what I was saying, sorry, it's a generator and a sensor. So a generator and a sensor in behind the flywheel. So we'll get that one stripped off and have a look in behind there and have a look, see what's going on. So we've got a little bit more apart now. Everything's very different than any other saw I've ever worked on, as you'll probably find yourselves. Obviously lots of fuel hoses and everything going on here. The control module which sits in there. In there is your little injection system, which just replaces your carburetor, which I'm not that keen on taking apart, to be quite honest, but we'll see. Luckily we've got some fantastic guys who work for us who probably know a lot more about this than I do. Got to get the flywheel off still, take the clutch off, take the brake lever and everything off, take the cylinder and piston out, and aim for stripping down for the crankcase. So we'll see how I get on then. Hi guys and girls, so right, we have now stripped everything apart. The saw is in a million pieces, just the way we like it. I'm going to run you through all the bits that are broken. So what we have got the main fuel tank and trigger assembly. This one is broken on the back here. So we've got where the tree has come down and hit onto that handle, it has squashed the handle there. If it was only being used domestically, we would probably get away with it, but as it's a commercial saw, then it definitely needs replacing because it wouldn't last very long. And then on the main handle, it has snapped in the bottom where the tree has come down and hit that and caused fatigue and snapped. So that one needs replacing. And then the main right-hand crankcase, so the crankcase here, you can see there that where the dogging teeth go onto the saw, that one has snapped off where the tree's hit it. Also the engine, where the engine mount goes here, or the handle mount, where the handle clips in on the side of the saw, goes in down through there, that one there is broken. So that one needs replacing. There is a possible fracture up through the crankcase, but it's not overly thingable. So we haven't actually done a pressure test on this, but because that needs replacing, there wasn't really much need. So we'll obviously do that once we've got the saw back together, check it's all okay before we start. So that's the main issues we found with the saw. So yeah, a few observations as we've gone through. We've got on the other, I've managed to take the crank off, as you probably saw from the sped up video, that I've managed to keep the awkward bit, which all joins into there. So on this side of the crankcase, you've got the generator. So that piece of the generator there, and then you've got the sensor back here. So as before, there's no coil on a 500i. You've got the generator there, which generates power through to the control unit. And then your HT lead comes off of your control unit and goes to your spark plug rather than coming directly off of the coil. So you've then got the generator there, and then you've got this sensor in behind the generator, which is obviously what's counting revolutions and controlling what's going on with the saw and feeding information back to the control unit to tell the saw what to do, when to feed air, when to feed the fuel and everything through the injector. So yeah, the other observation then is the injector itself, which you've got a lovely little jet just inside there, a little baby injector, which is quite cute. And that one just, obviously from the video you can see that just goes on pretty much where the carb would onto the inlet manifold. Well, that is the inlet manifold there, and then everything goes back through to the injector. The throttle body, which would normally be all part of the carburetor, is its own little standalone throttle body, which very easily goes on the back of here and clips in, and then your throttle goes on there and boom, boom, boom. Again, inside the throttle body, we're just in between the throttle body and the injector, there is a little stainless steel collar, which is very easily lost, so make sure you don't lose that one. The control unit itself, where the HT lead joins into, I haven't actually looked up the price of one of these, but I should imagine it's fairly interestingly priced. But these are, one thing to bear in mind is if you do replace a control unit, it all needs to be backed up onto the STIHL software first before you replace a control unit. So you can do lots of different strange things to a saw, like over revving and everything, if not doing that first. So that would definitely need to be done by a main STIHL dealer like ourselves. The annoying thing we found was when we unplugged all the connectors out of the control unit, there's some little rubber grommets which come out of there. I've tried getting one back in with little success, so I think I'm going to go take that back to my bench and do that off camera where I'm not under so much pressure. But we'll see, we'll try and get them back in again. Hopefully I do, otherwise that's an expensive unit. Should be fine. Cylinder, piston, bore, everything, all that looks absolutely fine, clean as a whistle. I don't think there's any other broken bits. Yeah, but no, that's pretty much it. So what we're going to do now is get the parts ordered. We're going to clean up all the last little bits before we reassemble everything, and then we'll film putting it all back together again and see how we get on. So last night, after all of our technicians in our main workshop went home, I went up to clean everything off, which needed to have a bit more of a clean. But what I found is that the bearings on the crankshaft do sound a little bit nasty. So I don't know if you can hear that from the mic. They're both sounding pretty terrible. So I put them in the press, got them all pulled off, and yeah, I've managed to do it keeping the generator and sensor and everything on the crankcase itself, so that hasn't been in the way. I know I probably should have removed it to start with, but I started like it, so I've carried on. But yeah, so we're gonna get 2 new bearings and seals and everything ordered up as well. Hopefully, I don't know yet, but hopefully the bearing will turn up in one crankshaft half, and then the other one will have to get pressed into there, but we will need to do that in our main workshop in the press. So, but yeah, we'll get that ordered, put that together, and go from there. So some of the parts have now turned up, and I've started reassembling the saw. So far, I've pressed in the bearings on that side of the crankcase, and I've pushed in the crankshaft, and now I'm just about to wind down this side of the crankcase with the old screws. I'll then take them out and put the new screws in and torque them up, and then start reassembling the saw, and hopefully we'll get a working saw again fairly soon. Right guys, so we have our MS500i back together. Hopefully correct. We'll find out in a minute whether see if it starts or not. But I'm just going to run through bits that we've replaced on the saw. So the first one was the crankcase, or right hand side of the crankcase because of the splits and things that's in it. So that's been done. Obviously crankcase gasket. The bearings on both sides of the crankcase have been replaced because they were a little bit noisy. The main petrol tank and trigger assembly, because of the crack in the back of the handle, that's been replaced. We are still waiting for the main plastic on the back of the saw here on that handle, for the simple reason that it's got a split in here and it's not sitting correctly, so the dead man's handle isn't working correctly. Trigger's all fine, but until we get that bit, there's no point fiddling around with that. The carry wraparound handle has been replaced on the whole saw. Lots of stretch bolts and head bolts and bits and pieces have all been replaced as we've gone through. And the chainsaw bar. So the main bar has got bent on the end there, so obviously it's had a fairly big hit. So unfortunately there were more parts than we originally thought that were needed on this saw, but that's what we find sometimes, at least get down to stripping it right down and replacing what you think is necessary. Sometimes you find other things. So hopefully we're going to have a running chainsaw, albeit an expensive one. Definitely learned some lessons. We found out what's been inside the saw, looked at the generator, looked at the sensor, looked at the control unit, how different it is compared to other chainsaws. So, I hope this video has been informative from what's on the inside, at least, and you'll take some information back from this. I know we have, and we now know what's on the inside. So any questions, please give us a shout. But in a minute, we're going to fuel it up, oil it up, and hopefully we've got a working chainsaw. If not, we'll start again. Right guys, so we've come up to our main workshops just so that I can disturb our colleagues during the day, which I said I wouldn't, but I've done it, just so that we can get this 500i plugged into the STIHL Diagnostics SDS system, just to make sure everything's all updated and ready to go. So hopefully I'm not going to disturb them all too much, but they've, they're all busy doing bits and pieces around the shop, and then hopefully we'll get a start very soon. Right guys, so here we are. The MS500i is all back together, and hopefully we're now going to do a test to make sure it works. So the pressure's on a little bit because we've got 6 of our technicians up there eagerly waiting to see if I've done this right, because I know they would have, but let's see if I'd have. So there we have it, albeit a little bit smoky from all the oil that's in the piston. She starts up, revs up. So now in a minute we're going to let her warm up, get going, and then we'll do a bit of cutting with it.